We have 3 malicious compliance stories for you. If you enjoy them, remember to like and subscribe.
I work in claims, and because we're long-term personal injury claims, we're not considered a call center. But we do take calls from our claimants and need to be available to take calls from claimants. And on average, I receive about 6-8 calls a day, but generally only 4 of those are for me. Recently, there has been a trend of some colleagues putting themselves on unavailable for long periods of time, 3+ hours daily, to avoid calls, and when you reach out to ask if they're free for a call, they don't respond until it's been at least 5 minutes, because in that time you've probably ended the call for them anyway. You'd taken a call for a colleague named Sally already, and in a department of 100+ colleagues, 2 calls for one person is unusual. When I received another call, but this time it was from an external complaints body wanting to ask Sally some questions, which at that stage not yet a complaint. At 2:32 I messaged Sally to ask if she's free, and while I wait I get the background from the nice external complaints person. At 2:42 she replied and said, "Sorry, I was just on a call, everything okay?" And I immediately replied saying, "No, they're still on the call and I can transfer you." Sally immediately backtracks and says, "Sorry, I'm still on the call, can you take a message?" What Sally doesn't know is that I can see her status, and it's set to do not disturb and not on a call, so I know she's just trying to get out of taking calls. But I just agreed, and I decided instead of resolving the call, I would take a message and pass it on. As requested, I took a message from the nice external complaints person. As I wasn't able to resolve the query, I confirmed that I would escalate it urgently to Sally's manager and our internal complaints team, as they wanted to know about an urgent payment that hadn't been processed in a week. Sally immediately replied and said I should have said who it was and should have taken the call. "That's so odd, I thought she was on a call." TLDS, Sally didn't want to take a call that she could have resolved immediately and asked me to take a message. I helpfully took a message and sent it to her manager and our complaints team. Also, before anyone asks, either way the payment will be processed today, so me taking the message didn't screw anyone other than Sally over. I work for a freight delivery company, drive a semi-truck, and usually go out with 10 to 15 deliveries a day. Our policy is that when you deliver to a residence, you have to take a picture with the work phone as an additional proof of delivery. That has morphed into now if the delivery receipt says residential, you have to take a picture of it, regardless if it's going to a business or a house. There are so many small details on a delivery receipt that can get missed, so this is an important detail. One day last week I have a delivery for Laura Lopez. It was being delivered to a construction company that Laura is an employee of. The delivery receipt does not say it's residential. I make the delivery and leave, no picture. Next morning my bitch of a supervisor says, "I have a write-up for you." Puzzled, I ask her for what. For the Laura Lopez delivery yesterday, it was residential. I explained to her that it was at a business and the delivery receipt did not say residential. She wasn't having it. I should also mention that her and I butt heads often, and she's been trying to get rid of me for some time. I told her that we need to go talk to my manager about it, so we do, and he sides with me because she has no ground to stand on. This infuriates her. I tell her that under no circumstances will this be an issue again. That day is when I start my MC. I take pictures with the work phone at every stop. What happens is when I hit depart on the work phone, it sends a pop-up to her computer with the picture, and she has to acknowledge it before she can do anything else on her computer. I crashed her computer 3 times that day. At one stop, I took 20 pictures. I get a call from her telling me that I have to stop taking pictures. I politely tell her that I'm covering my ass and not going against policy. "I'm giving you an order." I laugh and hang up. Sure as shit she wrote me up for it. I don't even argue. I say we need to take it to my manager. I walk in and he says, "What now?" I tell him the story. He looks at her, takes the write-up and rips it up. Are you seriously writing him up for overperforming? She had no words, and I still take a picture at every stop because I'm petty. Lol. I had a hand in this malicious compliance, and it was rather nice. First, a little information. Back when I was working as a classroom technician for my local community college after I Graduated. The college had a need for a technical scribe for a blind student. They needed someone who could not only provide direction of what the computer was showing on the screen that the Dragon software that audibly gave cues on what you were doing was unable to, but also had the technical skills to also know how to work the software that was being used. I fit in perfectly, and so was hired on to do the technical interpreting for the student for the quarter. The professor assigned for the students to create a user interface that did some specific things. Well, the paper that he gave out had a general idea of what the students were to create. To help, but not overly help, I designed the general GUI graphical user interface, and then let the student do the brunt of the work that Dragon functioned for. And I filled in the gaps by verbally CUing him on where he was and what to do next, because Dragon wasn't giving any cues. Student then turned in the assignment. Professor asks us to come to his office the next day and says that he knows I did the GUI part, and it was the student's responsibility to do their own interpretation of what he handed out. I was about to explain, but the student grabbed my arm, politely apologized, and said he will do as asked. We leave his office and I ask, "What's up?" He replied, "Can you edit the settings on those laser printers in the computer lab to print a page of nothing but black?" I said, "Sure." So we do so, and after that black page was printed out, we went back to the professor's office. He said, "Well, that was quick." The student handed over the paper, and the professor was very confused. Student then spoke up, "You said for me to design a GUI based off of what you printed. This is what I saw, so I'm giving you my interpretation of the image that you printed for the class." At that moment, the professor had a light bulb go off in his head, realizing that he required a blind student to give their interpretation of an image he printed for the class. He apologized, said the previous work will be counted, and for future assignments to proceed as we had been. He then said to the student, "Well played."
That's all for today. Like and subscribe and come back for more.